Hello, everyone. I'm Vinay Rao, and I'm the head of platform engineering at Carver Agents. And in this demonstration, I'd like to showcase the fact that enterprises can actually operationalize AI governance and continuous compliance using Carver SDK at the agent level directly. To that effect, I have spun up an AI agent that represents a fictitious financial and banking company called Meridian Bay. And this AI agent actually follows industry norms in terms of having a 7-layer compliance stack that each interaction actually goes through. What I'll be demonstrating here is to begin with, I'll show you what those 7 layers look like. A quick snapshot of what does a typical governance policy at a given layer look like. And before we turn on Carver's SDK interaction, I'll show you what the messages and responses from this agent looks like. And once we do turn it on, what do the messages get upgraded to? So let's get started. A quick walkthrough of what the 7 layers are. So let me zoom in a little bit here. All right. So each message goes through these 7 layers in this interaction. So the first layer goes ahead and eliminates any attempts at prompt injection. Once it clears that stage, it goes through a topic slash intent routing. The idea here is to make sure that any question that's off topic gets weeded out right away. Then there is the information retrieval layer, which ascertains that anything that we tell the user can be backed by an actual source citation. We also make sure that the system prompt is in place to make sure that the tone of the responses are all managed. We make sure that there is some notion of tool gating, meaning that if there is an internal tool which goes ahead and helps with cancellation of accounts, these shouldn't be accessible by agents. So if a user asks about account cancellation, it should be rerouted to a human being. Once the LLM goes ahead and gets this structured expectation as an input in order to generate a response which is user friendly, the response from the LLM is also validated to make sure that no personal information is being shared and things are clean and presentable back to the user. So these are the typical 7 layers of guardrails, and each of these policies essentially have a list of do's and don'ts that are presented to the agent. So the agent must not provide false statements. It must not guarantee specific investment recommendations. It should provide examples and so on and so forth. This is what a typical policy would look like that governs the interaction, right? So let's actually get into the actual demonstration. As you can see, before it hits the LLM, there are 4 to 5 layers of pre-LLM validations. And once the response does come back, there's uh, a couple of more layers of post validation before the user actually hears the response that's been presented to them. So let's begin our interaction with Meridian Pay. Let me ask it a question about upgrading to its Pro account, right? Hi, I would like to upgrade to your Pro account. Are there any options where I can get my money back if I were to cancel the account, right? Fairly straightforward query from a user. Now, the response has gone through the 7 layers of verification, and still it has gone ahead and committed to things that it should not. For example, it has said that you can get a full refund, which is an substantiated policy claim. You can cancel anytime without any cancellation fee. These are all, as you can see, underlined in red, but these are red flags as far as the banking industry is concerned. You cannot go ahead and willy-nilly commit to such claims, right? Let me dig a little deeper, go ahead and ask other questions. So thanks. While I have you here, I noticed a couple of transactions worth $85 and $125, which I do not recognize. Can you help me with these? Right. Um, Again, a fairly valid query to a banking agent. It says that sometimes charges come from merchant with names that are different from what we expect. So what it's done here is it has essentially put the ball back into the user's court, telling me to go and ascertain that I'm not the one who's confused. It's telling me about asking me about additional details. It's not yet committed to taking further actions as it should. So, uh, banking industry in general takes information like this very seriously, and I would expect this bot to have done that as well, but it clearly did not. Right now, let's ask it one last question. I noticed a couple of late fee related line items. What is your typical late fee and what is the interest on it? Now, again, another question that should not elicit numeric responses because that binds the bank to those numbers. But here we go, the bot has gone ahead and told me that the typical number is $35 and the range is 25 to 30%. These aren't things that it's supposed to do. So now what we'll do is let's go ahead and turn on the Carver's live signal. What's happening in the background is this bot is now speaking to Carver SDK, which is interacting with our database, where we have regulations which are being tracked continuously across over 115 jurisdictions and over 1,000 regulators across these jurisdictions. We have access to all of their guidances, enforcement actions, notices, and everything. So that information is being pulled, contextualized to Meridian Bay's business context, and only the relevant enforcement actions within the last 30 days are being fetched with the intent of updating policy, right? So it has gone ahead and found pieces of information like which concern the areas of deceptive practices, consumer protection, which is where our interaction was headed. Now, what it's done is it has found these signals that are important to identify and fix the policies that you have in place. So 6 out of 7 of your policies are currently out of date and they need to be updated is the information that we've gotten. And what's happening right now is we are taking the existing policies, we are taking the Carver's signal, and we are going and figuring out what's the update that needs to happen to these existing policies in order to be compliant. Right. So to that effect, let's give the system a minute while it goes ahead and generates these updates for the 6 out of 7 that it identified. And as you can see, these are the updates that it identified. So let's take the retrieval layer update, for example. It has first of all gone ahead and cited which are the updates based on which the changes have come through. Let's take a look at one of the examples. Something to do with cancellation terms, right? The agent must not represent or imply any renewal, cancellation, or fee terms without a document containing the exact language. So it has added a layer of scrutiny that the agent must go through to make sure that it's not committing like it did in the V1 of the example. So let's go ahead and apply these changes. And let's see how the interaction improves for the same set of questions, right? So now let me go ahead and ask it the same question with the V2 of the policy in place. Now let's see what it says, right? It's now gotten more mature in terms and compliant in terms of what it is telling me. It's telling me that to provide you with accurate information of potential cancellation policies, I recommend checking specific plan documents. So it's not telling me about, hey, you can get a full refund or any such thing. It's telling me, please read up on the right documentation as necessary. Let's ask it the other two questions as well about the spurious charges, right? I hope it takes this a little more seriously this time. And the language reflects that too. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. It's important to treat these as potential security incidents. Uh, I'd like to dispute this. I recommend we initiate a dispute case. So it's taking all the right steps in order to address a rather serious situation uh, of spurious transactions. And the last thing that we wanted to demonstrate was how it now shies away from committing to typical terms, because each one depends on individual account information. So it's hard for me to comment on it without your account details, right? Which is great. So as you can see, we were able to demonstrate the fact that with Carver's RegWatch live signal, uh, we can actually stay on top of regulatory updates and make sure that your policies are continuously compliant. With that, I'd like to end this demo, and I hope you found this useful. Thank you so much.